Sharp Game here, coming at you with another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com, off of Love Can't Wait, what can be found on Amazon.com. And someone asked me, what should he expect being married to a Japanese girl living in Japan? And that's a good question, man. I think it's very difficult being married to a Japanese girl if you're a non-Japanese man or a foreigner. That's what they like to call us in Japan. They call us foreigners. We're foreigners for life in Japan if you're living in Japan. And see, one of the problems is a lot of Japanese people, they get very uncomfortable easily, because they don't like talking about anything. Coming from the Western world, most people, most guys, we like to put everything on the table and iron out our differences, and so we can move forward and progress, right? But see, most Japanese girls aren't like that. See, in their mind, they want to keep harmony within the family. So the way to go about doing that is just not to talk about anything that's controversial or anything that's going to disturb the harmony within the family. So, this happens on both sides of the fence. So if you have a problem with something with her, or maybe she said something that offended you, you're not supposed to say anything about it. And you got to really pick your battles when it comes to this too, because, for example, let's say your wife goes to work, and every Friday when she gets off, she goes to the bar, stays out all night, stays out late until 1, 2 in the morning, come back drunk. Let's say she's been doing that every Friday for the past 6 months. Now, if you say something to her about that, it's not going to go anywhere. She might even flip out on you, because in Japan, you're not supposed to bring up or stir up things that bother you. See, it's only most Japanese people, it's only a problem if you bring it up. Now, if they bring it up, it's fine. You see what I'm saying? So this is their way of thinking. This is why a lot of relationships between foreigners and Japanese women fail, because for a young guy in the 20s, early 20s especially, it's very difficult to adapt. You have to be very mature to handle a situation being in a relationship like this. And a lot of Japanese people are not compassionate people either. There's always an exception to the rule, but for the most part, they're not. And they get uncomfortable real quick. So if you're married to a Japanese girl, they're not compassionate. They don't have a lot of empathy. So you're probably going to have to get the compassion from somebody else, like your friends or your family or something like that. Because a lot of Japanese people have been socialized to be somewhat like robots. It's kind of like, they act like things don't exist in most cases. If you might sit down and tell a woman expressing yourself about something that happened to you. Maybe you had a bad experience. Maybe you had a hard days from work. They don't really feel, they won't really feel anything towards you. They'll act like, what's the big deal? Why are you telling me this? Why are you talking about this? Right? This is why I say you're going to have to get the compassion side fulfilled elsewhere. Could be another woman. Could be a friend or a family member, something like that. You know? And I'm not mad at them. I'm not knocking them, because I understand how they've been socialized. So, and then if as far as family goes, they raise their kids very different, you know. So that's another area where a lot of foreigners and Japanese women bump heads too, because a lot of Japanese people aren't very disciplined when it comes to the kids. You know, they pretty much listen to the parents, the in-laws. And that's another problem as well, because what you have in most cases, a lot of Japanese girls listen to everything their parents say. And sometimes they'll listen to stuff that an older person says at work. And then they'll come home and bring that to you. And she expects you to buy into that. So that's a problem for most guys. So she will in a lot of cases, take their word, their advice over you. And then there's a problem. But if you try to explain that to her, she doesn't get it. She doesn't get it, man. You know? And then a lot of times the in-laws can be so deep into the sons and daughters' relationships and marriages, things can kind of get complicated and kind of messy. And the kids, son and daughter, won't really know how to handle it, because they're trying to please both sides. And in some cases, you got some people that some couples might be living elsewhere, and they'll have kids. And if the daughter calls and say, hey, you know, I don't like how I'm being treated, and you know, they already got kids, so the parents might say, hey, why don't you come back to Japan and you can stay downstairs, or we'll build you a house along with the kids, and just leave your husband in America or wherever they were staying at. That happens a lot. You know what I mean? And the parents, especially the mother, has a lot of impact on them. A lot of influence. So, you know, a lot of times situations get a little complicated when it comes to that. And I know a lot of guys would have problems with that. It's like, for example, I had one of my friends. He's been living in Japan for like 20 years. And he got married when he was in the Navy. He was about 25. And as soon as I think he was married for like 15 years. And as soon as he got out of the Navy, his wife wanted out. Now, they already had 3 kids at this time. So she didn't want to be with him anymore. because she felt like he wasn't living up to her expectations. And which brings you to my point. See, the longer you're with most of the Japanese girls, their expectation goes higher and higher. But when it comes to her, it doesn't really matter, because she might stop doing everything at some point. But if you try to shed some light on that and make sense of that to her, she won't get it. She'll just justify why she stopped doing whatever she stopped doing, and it's your fault. It's based on your level of expectations, based on her perspective. So you got to really pick your battles, and you have to be a very mature person to deal with a relationship like this. Because coming from the Western world, it's really a dysfunctional relationship. So I think the perfect person for a relationship like this, as far as guys go, you have to be a guy that have no conscience. You'd be a perfect fit for a Japanese girl, because nothing she does would offend you or bother you. Most of the stuff she does wouldn't be a big deal to you. But if you're a conscious person, you care about people, you care about the family, you care about the families, their kids, and their well-being, more than likely, you're going to be, they're going to be offended a lot. You're going to have a lot of problems, because it's going to be difficult for you to express yourself, because she don't want to hear it. She ain't trying to hear none of that shit. And one of the worstest things you can do around a Japanese girl is to be jealous. That's the worst thing you could ever do, because she's going to look at you like you're weak to an extent. She's going to start to disrespect you. So, it's like, and then if you're living in Japan, there's a lot of adjustments you have to make. As far as the way of living, a lot of stuff that we take for granted in America, you have to pay extra for in Japan. And I think in America we get more with paying less money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's pretty much how that is. It's like if you want a nice car in Japan, or you want to live in a big apartment, you're gonna have to pay extra for that. If you want to look at football on Sundays, you're gonna have to pay extra for that. I mean, if you want to look at pay-per-view, you're gonna have to pay extra for that. So those are just some examples, And plus, a lot of times, a lot of the Japanese girls might not understand where you're coming from as well. See, if you care about people, friends, family, etc., and when they come to visit you, or maybe it's the holidays, and when y'all, either they come see you or you go see them, so y'all go as a couple together. Now, when y'all start hugging on each other and talking to each other, like, how you doing, and start doing stuff together and building together, making money together. Now, a lot of Japanese girls struggle with this because they don't understand how that works. They don't really see the value in families coming together during the holidays because they don't really do that shit during the holidays. I mean, they come together if it's something special going on, an event, graduation or whatever. But in my family, for example, we come together almost every holiday. 4th of July, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's Eve, for family reunion. That's what my family does, right? Now, a Japanese girl she gonna struggle with this. She might struggle with this. Now, in hindsight, on the surface, it looks good to her. But on the other side of things, she'll struggle because she's not used to being around so many different people. You know what I'm saying? She's coming from a place where Japan, everybody's doing the same shit for the most part. Everybody's does the same thing. But with my family, or maybe your family, everybody's doing something different, but at the same time, they still together. So that in itself is a struggle to her. She's going to have a hard time with that because she doesn't really understand that. And she doesn't see the value of friendship. A friend to her, in most Japanese girls, is just somebody that you go out with after work. Somebody you that come to visit you from time to time, long distance or local. And that's it. They don't really keep in touch with each other. They don't really have intimate conversations. You know what I mean? They don't really talk personal stuff. As a matter of fact, I remember, I think LinkedIn.com was thinking about launching a branch of their website in Japan. And I told somebody that's a bad idea to do that in Japan. Launch an office in Japan. Because number one, in Japan, they separate personal, how should I say this? They separate who they are as a person from business. They separate the two. Just like, in America, we get to know people, for the most part, people that do real business, people that do real good long-term business. They like to get to know people first. They invite people out the company events. Then they might invite them to maybe private events or whatnot. And then if they like the person, and maybe eventually they'll do business together, right? Now in Japan, most Japanese people, they don't do that shit. Everything is just business. It's nothing personal about them meeting up together after work at all. They might work together in some capacity and meet up outside of work, after work, for years. But on a personal level, they might not ever know each other. You know what I mean? That's how they operate. Really. Because they don't really have any compassion for the other person. They kind of they just been socialized to be that way. That's why I told the person that having LinkedIn launch their website in Japan was one of the worst ideas they could have even done. They didn't do it, as far as to this date, as far as I know, because that would be one of the worst things they could ever do, in my opinion. Humbler, in my opinion, man. I'm serious, because they just don't get personal like that. They don't even touch most of the time. I mean, I remember when I first, when I was in the Navy, and I had this Japanese girl hanging around me, and the way, I know it was like, at one point, it was like 10 of us together. 10 of my friends that I met in the Navy, and some I met outside of the Navy as well. Some people I met on base. They were like, just, American citizen working on base. And this girl, the way she saw me interacting and hugging and high-fiving everybody and just hooking everybody up and supporting all my friends, she didn't understand why I was like that. The shit blew her fucking mind. You know what I'm saying? She didn't really understand that. And even that makes a lot of girls uncomfortable. That makes a lot of Japanese people uncomfortable, because they don't like touching. They don't really hug. They usually bow. They don't. The only Japanese people that I hug are the people that I've known for a long time and the people that like me. And if they like you, they'll pretty much let you do whatever you want, if you know what I mean. That's how it is. But if they've known you for a long time, it's cool. Because if they ain't seen you in a while, of course they'll give you a hug. However, if they like you, they'll let you do whatever, if you know what I mean. I'll let you figure that one out. So there's always an exception to the rule. And another thing that a lot of the something else that I didn't know when I was in my 20s when it comes to Japanese girls. And this is where a lot of younger guys get a rude awakening, because a lot of Japanese girls are very strategic when it comes to getting in relationships. And, there's a lot of pressure that parents put on Japanese women in Japanese society to get married, right? And what happens is, they on the clock, and the clock is ticking. The clock starts early for Japanese women. It starts at 25, right? Now, if the girl's not married at 25, she starts getting nervous. You know what I'm saying? And parents start looking at her funny style. Like, what's going on? You ain't got a guy yet? You ain't got no kid yet? Where my grandkids at? And by the time she hit 30, a lot of Japanese guys don't really want to fuck with her like that. The Japanese guy is gonna be maybe 40 or 50 if she's in the 30s. And the Japanese guys that's in the 30s is not fucking with a girl that's in the 30s. It's very rare. I'm talking like they don't even want to sleep with her. You know what I mean? So more than likely, she's going to be single if she doesn't date foreigners, right? But at the same time, a lot of Japanese families don't want foreigners in their family, because that makes things complicated, because this is how they look at it. You can't speak Japanese. And even if you can speak Japanese, you know, people are gonna be looking at them funny style, their parents funny style. You know what I'm saying? And then you got some families just don't like foreigners, just don't want foreigners in their family at all. And then you got some families will say anybody, they don't mind if their daughter date a foreigner as long as he's white. And then you got some of them will say anything but black. So you got that dynamic that plays out as well. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, the clock is ticking for a lot of these girls. And a lot of these girls, they don't age well. When they hit 40, 45, 50, man, they fall the fuck off. I'm talking like, it's not even, it's like a drastic fall. I mean, it's like, damn, what the hell happened? And this is why a lot of guys can't get up, can't rise to the occasion because they're not attracted to the girl anymore. Now, I know some people would say, well, that's not right. You shouldn't judge people by looks, but most guys go off looks. It's not right, but that's how it works. That's how it is most of the time. And what happens is the Japanese girl will blame you because she ain't attractive as she used to be, because you can't rise to the occasion. And in Japan, you got millions of sexless women, because these Japanese guys, once they fall off, they're not touching that. They might not divorce her, but they ain't gonna have sex with her. They'll have a side chick. And a lot of foreigners will have the same experience as well. So you might have a 45, 50-year-old married Japanese woman. She might haven't had sex in 10, 15 years. And you gotta have single women like this as well. You gotta have single Japanese women that's 40, 50 years old, might haven't had sex for a long time, years. And they don't speak no English. And, you know, they still attractive in most cases, but they're not as attractive as they used to be. You know, because a lot of Japanese guys, they set the bar high. You know what I'm saying? They don't fuck around. They're very traditional. You know, they don't buy into this new Western world way of thinking, and that they pushing in Japan. Most Japanese guys don't buy into that shit. They're still doing what's been passed down to them for hundreds of years. You know, so a lot of young guys will get a rude awakening because they'll get married to these girls in the 20s, and when they get into when they hit 40 or late 30, they fall the hell off because a lot of these girls just didn't take care of themselves because they drink a lot, smoke a lot. Some of them used to get high. Some of them used to party, didn't get enough sleep, and now they hit a wall. And a lot of these marriages end up not working out, you know, or if they do stay together, for the kids, they'll just stick it out until they become teenagers or adults, and then they'll go their separate ways. Or if they do stay together, they'll have separate rooms, but they won't sleep together, you know. And that's a kind of the norm for Japanese couples. They have separate rooms in Japan, believe it or not. So, you know, there's just, you know, I think one of the biggest problems I had is just that a lot of Japanese people just don't have. They're not compassion. They don't have compassion. They don't have empathy for people. They don't really, and they get uncomfortable easily, and it's very difficult to get past the communication problems. You know, this is why I think that the relationships, it's been set up to fail in Japan, because in order to solve a problem, you have to acknowledge that, at least bring awareness to the problem, that something's wrong, that's something that that offends you, something that needs to be fixed. But if you don't do that, or if the other person gets uncomfortable, it's never going to work. You're never going to progress in a relationship. You're never going to be able to build anything. But that's the way it is in most cases. Being married to a Japanese woman. So I think, in my opinion, you can't really expect very much when you get married to a Japanese girl. You really don't know how things are going to go until you really get into it, unfortunately. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel, check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. Until next time, Sharp Game is out. Peace.